If you like to laugh, and who doesn't, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to My Funny House with the Powell brothers. Frank Powell is a real estate broker who was born and raised in San Diego, along with Frank's brother Mark, a real estate broker who also lives in San Diego. Each week, the Powell brothers bring in a special guest comedian to share hilarious real estate stories so you can learn what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership. So now, let's get into it. With My Funny House, here are your hosts, Frank and Mark Powell on The Answer San Diego.
Hello, San Diego. Welcome to My Funny House with the Powell brothers. My name is Mark Powell. I'm a real estate broker.
And my name is Frank Powell, one of the Powell brothers, and I'm also a real estate broker.
Together, we make up the Powell brothers. We do have another brother.
We do. We have a sister.
Yes. Okay, we have another sister. Frank, tell us about our other sister.
Well, we have a nice sister. Her name is Judy Powell.
Well, before we go any further, I'd like to also welcome our guest host, Maria Herman, who is our favorite Australian and the producer of Comedy Heights.
I thought this was going to be the most interesting introduction I've ever received because I have never been introduced as another brother.
No, not.
You're our other sister, so we have to go Powell brothers plus one.
Yes.
Maria Herman, the producer of Comedy Heights. How you doing, Maria? Good to see you.
Doing really, really great, and so excited that shows that things are opening up, and it's not going to be long before things are back to normal. It's very exciting.
It's so awesome
It's
to
a
see.
good thing.
Yeah,
I can't believe it.
It's
Well,
great.
Today's show, we're going to talk about something that everybody's interested in. It's how to buy a house. 12 easy steps, which I don't believe they're going to be easy steps, but they are 12 steps, and the Powell brothers can make them relatively easy. The first step is, Frank, what's the very first step into buying a house?
Well, you have to decide whether you're ready to buy a house, right?
Yes.
That's number one. And this is not just a step-by-step. It's more of a process, right? You got to go through a process, but you got to hit all these marks, but it's a big process. You have to be ready mentally. So you decide whether or not you're ready to buy a house. And
Or if you even want to buy a house. Some people just like renting because they can be more mobile.
some people don't.
They
Yeah,
just go, I don't want to buy a
absolutely
house.
right.
I don't want to be locked down to anything. In
Buying-
Europe,
Don't you think that that literally this very first step is the most important step of anything? Like my son just bought his first house and feels like this first year is the most work he's ever had. And to me, it's like, oh, this is no big deal. You're replacing carpet or you're redoing tile or something comes up and you've got an extra expense. And he's like, I never knew it was going to cost extra money.
Well,
I'm like, well, yes, the houses cost money.
and they can cost a lot of money. But the first thing you have to do, is calculate how much you can afford. And there's a way to do that.
Yeah, there's a way to do that. First, you take your budget and you want to get a lender that can help you.
You got to get a lender.
Got to get a
You
lender. Before you go shopping, you got to get a lender.
You've got to get a job. The first thing you have to do.
First thing you have to do is get a job. Right.
That's right.
All right.
You can't, the government won't, but government does have some programs for first-time home buyers. And a lot of them are pretty good. However, in San Diego, where there's hardly any homes and a lot of competition,
Right.
it's tough to use that program. But Frank, one other thing you have to do, you have to save. What are you going to save for?
You got to save for that down payment. You can't get a
Ooh.
house for free. The bottom line is you got to put some cash down. So you got to figure out, got to look at your budget, got to call that the lender. And the lender is a really good person to know because they help explain how you're going to buy this house. They're the ones. So when Mark and I speak to people, and this is why we can sell properties to our good friends, because we never ask them really what their financial situation is. That's the lender's job. So Mark and I target the house, see where they want to buy, negotiate that. But the lender has a confidential information. So working with a broker, you don't really have to tell them how much you make and your debt to income ratio. That's for the lender. They really help you on those steps.
I'm kind of curious. In all your experience, have you ever shown houses to people who really couldn't afford to buy a house? Have you ever had that circumstance?
Once.
It happens once.
At
and
once.
they'll never do it
When you
again.
first start as a realtor, then you say, I'm not going to drive people around anymore that don't qualify for a house.
Right.
Yeah.
So people need to qualify before they can even call you.
No, they call us and we evaluate them. Okay, what are you looking for? What's your price range? Do you have the proof of funds? Do you have a down payment? Who's your lender? Can we talk to your lender? And some of them don't know. So we help guide them through that process. And they go, what's the lender?
The process can take a week or it can take 2 or 3 years.
Right.
We work with people for years and get their credit score up. We show them how to get their credit score up. But the one thing that people really need to know in San Diego is that the median price home, that's a home that's in the middle, is $680,000.
Or higher. I think there's a couple reports. You have 680. I found 720. So right around there, it's going to be, let's just say 700.
So in order to qualify for a median price home in San Diego, you have to be making somewhere between $135,000 to $150,000, somewhere in that range.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that every comedian I know, and this is for buying a house, as far as qualifying to buy a house, every comedian I know could buy a house as long as they all got together and bought the one house, because then they would qualify.
It is super hard to buy a house right now. It's virtually impossible for a major section of our community.
Right. It is hard. And there's not that many homes for sale. However, it's not impossible. You just have to be patient and persevere.
Yeah. The other thing, economy. Yeah. The other thing is, Mark, is that we do find a lot of home buyers try to go for the first house to be their forever house.
Right.
They don't want to start off in the condo anymore.
Right.
Have you seen that? They go, I want a house. I don't want to do a condo.
Right.
So remember, real estate, unlike any other investment or most other investments, is a long-term investment. You're going to get your return 10, 20, 30 years down. Something that you can even have your kids inherit. That's how you generate wealth. It's not something you can buy and flip in a year and make money. In most, maybe this time you can, but in most environments, market conditions, it's a long-term investment.
And with very few exceptions, when you buy a house, it's not like a car. The minute you drive it off the lot, it becomes a used car, and it's much
right. It doesn't
lower.
drop 30%. The houses typically go up 3 to 5% a year. Now they're going up 11%.
Well, they went up 17% in a year. 17% in San Diego. It's crazy.
Okay,
it's a lot.
Unbelievable.
So some people are making money. Some people, I mean, if I had a house right now, I would sell it and I would move into my car. That's how much money we could make, right?
You could sell it and move into a motorhome. Forget the car.
You know what a really good step is when you're going to buy a house? That's extremely important. And I would probably put it almost as important as when you're thinking about buying a house, is hiring your agent.
You got to hire a good agent. However, before you hire an agent, you can also explore. There's a lot of internet sites where you can go right online, Google houses for sale. You could do your own to see what you like. So let's say you're at a $700,000 limit, and you go and you look at the houses and you go, I would never live in these houses for whatever reason.
Yep.
So then you just know you're not going to do it right now, and you got to save more. So once you do your own preliminary investigation, then you got to figure out what agent do I want to select, and who am I going to work with, and how do I select them, right?
That's exactly well, it's really simple. You just automatically select the Powell brothers.
You just go to the Powell brothers.
Just go straight to us.
Call us.
There's
no decision.
You don't have to worry,
We take that stress off of them.
Yeah.
There's
no more stress about that. Just hire us.
Listen, I have a question. Yes. So is it important to know ahead of time how much you're going to make out of the sale? Because is that a factor?
If you're an ethical person,
I've dealt with realtors who their percentages may vary. It's not like everybody's getting the same percentage at the end of the day. I've looked at contracts where they say they want 7% or something.
Wow!
And I know that you're like, what? Why so much?
Yeah. That's crazy. Mark and I only charge 10%. So I don't know who's charging 7%. They're cutting us down.
We reduced it last year to 10%.
Like everything else.
That's a joke, by the way. If anybody's listening,
right.
we don't charge 10%.
I think they're going to realize it's a joke.
Yeah.
So once you figure out what the market conditions are doing. Everything in real estate, they say, is negotiable, and it is, including the commissions. So depending on the market conditions, I'm going to tell you right now, the market's so hot right now, we're not going to charge 6%. We're just not going to. So you got to go like, what are you going to do? Because you'll get 10 offers a house. Right.
So
you got to see what you have, what's involved, but you also have to include the negotiation skills, the amount of time you've been a realtor. Have you ever been sued? Have you had an ethical complaint? Are you a broker? You got to do your due diligence.
You get what you pay for.
You absolutely get what you pay for.
If I'm gonna get a doctor or a lawyer or
So,
or a
any
carpenter
professional.
or I'm
Right.
not going to go with
Mark, the funny thing about realtors is that you don't see in other professions is that two things realtors do that you don't see other professions do. You're never going to have a doctor knock on your door and say, "Hi, do you need to get an exam?" And you're never going to have a person go into surgery and go, "How much is that surgery? Can you cut that in half?"
Yeah.
Well,
So-
first off, I don't think you've met my doctors. But, um, um,
They may come to your house, Maria.
Oh, listen,
That's a good one.
there's a line outside the door
Exactly.
here.
Uh,
So where am I getting this information? Where are you guys on
Well,
Craigslist?
wait,
I mean, where am I getting
Craigslist.
info
Maybe.
about you?
I'm going to tell you something else that other professions don't do. They don't put their picture on their business card.
Oh yeah, you don't do
This
that.
is like the
either.
weirdest thing.
Well,
when-
we have a weird industry.
yeah, everybody
you-
has their picture, and it's always a picture from high school, even though they're in their 50s.
They always have Mark and I were going to put a picture of us as infants just to one up everybody and go, yeah, it's us, but that's when I was 1 year old. Since you're saying you're 20 years old.
Sometimes I get a card, and I'll see the agent on there in their picture, and then I'll
Oh, it's
meet
false
them at the house.
advertising right there. That's
Yeah,
false
and I'll say,
advertisement.
I think I was here to meet your son or your daughter.
Too
you
many
know?
filters.
Too many.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and your
Well-
house needs a little remodeling. What can I say?
So once you hire the agent, like Frank was saying, 90% of home searches start on the internet, probably even more than 90. And what a person typically does is they'll find their house on one of the public online website search tools. There's a bunch of them out there. And if they find a house that they like, before their agent finds them the house, they'll call their agent and go, "Hey, I found this house. Can you do some inquiry? I'd really like to see it." And then
And then we so we go, okay, let's go look at it, right?
yeah, now
then-
it's a little bit different.
And then you go in there, and just like anything else, whenever you walk into a house, it's very, these are the kind of terms that you don't want your client to say that they don't like the house. So one of them, the best word is what, Mark? Do you know what?
Interesting.
Interesting.
This
right.
is very interesting.
Yes. Anyone who walks into a house and goes, interesting,
Yeah.
that's not the right house. Let's go. Let's go to
Yeah.
the next house.
This is like a blind date.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, interesting. Those
They've
are not
chosen
good.
some very unique colors in this house. Like, okay.
Yeah,
there you go.
but Mark and I explained to them, listen, you got to look. It's very hard for some people to look past the pink walls or the red walls and the carpeting and all that. But you have to look at the structure. You have to look at the location. And oftentimes when they review a property and they say location, 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 it means the location of the house. The location is put on the property and the location is pointed out. So you can have the same location, the same neighborhood.
It was location and orientation.
Yeah, an orientation.
They're
So
all
you're going,
different.
how it's situated, where it's looking.
Where's the sun
some,
coming in?
Some people come and they go, hey, I need the door to point a certain way. I don't
There's
want
some people that are very
Oh, a feng
superstitious.
shui.
Yeah, the
Oh,
feng
yeah.
shui.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's some people that won't buy a house because of the numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
That's
I was-
true too.
Right, the
Bad numbers.
Chinese.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I
The
mean,
American thing. Sure.
Well,
some numbers are.
Yes,
are
a lot of cultures do a lot of things and Mark and I come from a very diverse cultural background actually, and we have to.
Well, we've been trained in that. I've been
we-
trained formally as an educator, and you as
right,
as a sergeant.
right, exactly. It's called
Cultural-
diversity.
Cultural diversity. So once you put an offer on the house, okay,
Yes, you put
they
it on.
have to accept it. So
Yes, but you got to make your offer acceptable. So we help them create the offer. You don't just put any offer.
no,
You got to
Gotta strategize.
You could do the personal letter. You can do even include.
I don't think they allow the personal letter anymore.
Oh, they don't.
No, you
Oh, they
can't
pulled
write a
that.
letter. No, they
No
pulled
more
that.
letters.
No more
What-
personal
what,
letters.
What did they used to have in a letter? I mean, what would you
They would show
say?
a picture of the family.
They just show a picture of them and the dog. Hey, we like the house. The backyard fits our Labrador Retriever. We know the school down the street. We're really more interested in the school than the house. So we really want to get in this neighborhood to put our kids in that school. So they write you a
But
nice
no more,
letter.
but no more letters.
No more letters.
Those
It's
are-
discriminatory, right?
Yeah, they're not
Oh, wow.
allowed. Yeah,
Okay.
they don't write letters anymore or anything like that. You just submit your offer, straight offer.
It's like trying to get into college. It sounds like,
Oh my god.
Actually, it is. I mean, right now we're going up
or
against
used to be.
10 or 15 offers.
Yeah, all of them are good, and there's a lot of decent realtors out there. Seriously, we
Yes.
know we work with them.
Yes.
The vast
Look-
majority of realtors are very good.
I think I would like to put myself on the market right now. I would like nothing better than to get a bunch of offers that were way above my market price. I'm just saying, what a good feeling.
We can list
how-
you.
Well, that's something.
What is the most outrageous offer that you've heard of lately? Because where I'm at, I heard of a house going at 150,000 over list, and I'm sure that that's not unusual.
No, And,
So the offer has got to be, let's make it easy for the buyer. No contingencies. We'll definitely take the grandmother with us. We're not leaving her behind, and and we're also give you X amount of dollars above list.
well, that's
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
the offer is $150,000 above the list price. Either the house wasn't listed correctly, because that's an awful lot of money to be above. Is that correct? Or
I would say yes.
yeah, I would say
if
yeah.
you're off by 150.
I mean, like when we list a house, I don't think that you're going to list it for that. But if you're using a loan, that could pose a problem because the house has to appraise. That's one of the contingencies. So what agents
Mark, please explain to the audience that are listening what a contingency is. What is a contingency?
A contingency is I will move forward based upon a certain condition. For example, here's a contingency. I will buy your house if it passes an inspection, or I will buy a house if it appraises for what it's
I will buy a house if I can get the loan. So you just
Correct.
mentioned all three.
Three contingencies.
There's three contingencies right now. There's appraisal contingencies, there's a loan contingency, and there's an inspection. Let me explain this really quick. When you go to a bank and get a loan, they want to know that they're going to get their money back. So they have their appraiser go out to the house to see whether or not the loan is going to be valid. Does this house, in case we have to foreclose and sell it back on the market or put on the market, will we get our money back? So it has to appraise on the loan amount. Now, what are the options if it doesn't appraise, Mark? Do you have to? Is that it, or can you do something
If it
else?
doesn't appraise,
Right.
you can come in and just say, I'll take it anyways, and I'm going to pay the difference. So you actually
Correct.
put more money down. Or some people are just completely waiving their appraisal contingencies because they may be all cash buyers. You go, I don't care.
If you want to make a super strong offering today and waive your contingencies, I don't like to waive contingencies.
Neither do I.
I would never tell my client to waive an inspection contingency because that could be hundreds.
Well,
of
I would
thousands of
advise
dollars.
against
And
it.
you're going to
but-
be in a lawsuit.
Well, you can advise against it,
You can
but they
advise
can do
against
it.
it. They
Just
can
go,
do
hey,
it.
look,
Right.
I'm just letting you know I don't advise you to waive your.
But we make sure we document that. Are you sure you want to waive it?
because some people want the house so bad they just absolutely
Yeah.
don't want to lose it.
But then
This is all good advice. I wish that I had known this before I met my husband, because I feel like I waived contingencies. And I made my offer. It was all cash.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, I was like, geez, weren't there any other buyers to fight me for this?
Then you're
Did
stuck.
anyone else want this real estate? What am I doing with
I don't
this
know.
now?
Frank and
And
I
it
said,
feels like the long haul. I'm definitely in it for the 30 years plus.
Minimum,
to make any
right.
money on this,
Minimum.
I'm in there.
You may have to refinance.
yeah, maybe you want to
Oh,
get
I've done that already. I've done it already.
Okay, so now that you actually got your property accepted and you do the home inspection, so what happens when you find out that the inspection comes back? If you get a good inspector, it's going to come back no matter what. Even a brand new house will come back with a bunch of stuff wrong with it or say it's wrong. What do you do then, Mark?
You request repairs. You submit a form. It's called a request for repair. But remember, it's not just
A demand.
Demand. It's like,
They don't have to do it.
but
It's
if
a
they
request.
don't do it, you have options. Go, hey, I want you to fix this. If they don't, your option is I'm going to cancel escrow and I want it's called an earnest money deposit returned. And you can get your deposit returned because every time you buy a house, not every time, but 90-something% of the time, you put down a deposit to make sure that if you go all the way to the end and at the last day you change your mind.
In any other place, they'd call it skin in the game, right?
You have to have skin in the game.
So if you put $5,000 down versus $30,000 down, the seller's going to go, well, if they're willing to put $30,000 down, we're going to take his offer. As opposed to this person only gave us an earnest money deposit as $3,000.
You know what,
they don't have much to lose.
Frank, some people are just putting their deposit down and letting it go hard, which means I will put
Yes.
down $30,000 and you can just have it.
Right.
And then the person goes, well, I'm going to take that guy's offer because I already have $30,000. If they do anything wrong.
Correct. So if they back out of the deal, they already have their $30,000. They just made $30,000. They put the house back on the market and
Correct.
sell it.
Correct. There's no.
How often does that really happen? Because I'm ready to. I mean, that sounds fantastic, wouldn't you? I'd love to get all hard offers. I really would. Just, in fact, every day I wake up and that's what I hope for. Hoping for hard offers every morning, every night.
All those
Doesn't happen, but I wish. I just wish.
You can also get a credit
You can get a credit.
instead of a repair. So let's just say There's some windows that need repair. Some of the
But you can only get a credit if you have a loan.
well, exactly.
Right?
Well, I'll explain that. But
Okay.
if you
Well,
ask for,
can you get like cash back or something, or
Cash
taken
back.
off the?
well, yeah, you can get the cash. You can get a credit towards your closing costs, which whatever those
Right.
costs are to complete the transaction.
So in lieu of doing all these repairs, you don't have to do all these repairs, but I'm going to make a negotiation. Instead of having to do everything that we found, give me $10,000 credit. We'll call it even. Then we will be responsible for opening up the can of worms. We know it's there.
right.
We found out the problem, but
Right.
just give us a $10,000 credit. Would you suggest that people give a credit or repair, Mark?
Well, that's a really good question, and I'm going to tell you, it depends. That's the answer, because if they're asking for a $10,000 credit for $1,000 worth of repairs, I would say no,
No, repair it.
repair it. Sometimes repairing it is cheaper than giving them the credit. However, sometimes the credit is so much more than the hassle it's going to be. For example, if they say your roof is all screwed up, we want you to replace the roof, and that's going to take 60 days or 70 days, you want to close in 30, I wouldn't wait 60 days to close the house. I'll say, all right, give me money, and then when I move into the house, I'll hire my own roofer.
Right. Give me 15 grand credit. You do your estimate. It's about 15 grand.
But some things are not repairable. I'll give you an example. We sold a house where the driveway was so steep, the person couldn't get their car into the driveway. It's scraped. Remember that
that's
house?
Right. And that's correct.
Well, that sounds like a personal problem.
Yes.
Well,
it is
yeah,
exactly. You have to get a new car. And how about a whole other subject? You just reminded me of how about the people that go in the house and go, this doesn't match my sofa. They determine that
Buy a new
a
sofa.
house. Forget about the furniture. Okay, you don't go. It's max $5,000 furniture. Probably not.
What if they find termites? I always like to bring up termites.
Oh yeah, cook the termites.
What if they find termites?
Salad
go in there.
time.
No, this is one of the requests for repairs. One of the requests is to have a termite clearance. And if you're buying a house using a Veterans Administration loan, you have to have a termite clearance. It's one of the few loan programs that require that. They want to make sure there's no structural damage due to termites. They want to make sure that there's no active infestation of wood-destroying pests such as termites, dry rot, fungus, anything that would eat wood.
Okay, so they know the person is in the military. He wants to get the house. He's done his time in the military, and he wants a house where he doesn't have to put a whole bunch of investment into it after he buys it. So the obligation goes on the seller.
Yes, and oftentimes a seller will go ahead and clear that.
Okay, so now that it's cleared, what is the final walkthrough, Mark? What do? You go.
Well, wait a minute. I feel we have a lot of service men and women in San Diego, and I feel like in the way that today's market is, aren't they? Then isn't it a little more difficult for them if their loan is contingent upon getting this termite inspection, whereas another buyer may say, well, I'm willing to forego all these contingencies, and I'll
Yes.
Doesn't it just make it
Absolutely.
And that's where the competition comes in.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's an excellent point. So that's why you want to have somebody really negotiate this well, because after it's negotiated, the person does a final walkthrough, and the final walkthrough is to make sure that they didn't throw a raging party at the end and the carpet's all messed up and the appliances are missing and there's holes.
Or like there's
I feel like the seller ought to get an additional benefit for selling their home to a veteran. I don't know. I just feel like, you did your bit. Now I'm going to do my bit.
A lot of people feel that way.
I feel the same.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, for their service.
For me, I would give them a free house if they did combat, a vet, But,
Well, there's programs that help.
We have about 3 different lenders that are specialized in VA, and they're actually ex-military and or retired military. So if anyone needs a VA loan and wants to talk to a lender, just give us a call and we'll hook you up with a veteran.
And then the
VA
last thing is,
specialist.
guess what the last thing is? The last thing is
Getting your keys and closing that property.
Almost similar to what we're about to do on this show.
Yeah, exactly. It's very exciting when you get to hand the keys over to your client and walk through and
let's hand it over to Maria. Maria, how do we get a hold of you? Maria, tell us, how do we get a hold of you?
ComedyHeights.com. Our shows are back. We're very, very excited. ComedyHeights.com.
Okay, and I would like to thank everybody for tuning in to My Funny House with the Powell Brothers. I hope you can tune in next week, 11 a.m. on radio station AM 1170 or FM 96.1.
Have a good Saturday. Thank you so much.
Have a great Saturday. Bye, guys.
Thanks so much for joining us today for My Funny House with the Powell Brothers, right here on The Answer San Diego. Join us next week as the Powell Brothers bring you more funny stories of what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership, and bring the laughs to you with yet another hilarious guest comedian. To find out more about the Powell Brothers, be sure to check out their website at powellbrothersrealty.com, or you can visit myfunnyhouse.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next week for My Funny House on The Answer San Diego.